He's one of the hottest men in Hollywood, with enough drop-dead gorgeousness and charm to melt the iciest heart. She's one of the smartest and most stylish legal eagles and human rights activists in the world. Together, they have the brains, beauty, and bravado to make one ultra-sophisticated couple.
What I have found with you is the great love that I always hoped existed.
But believe it or not, their relationship has not always been a walk in the park. What many don't know is that this power duo has had a few major targets on their backs during the past few years. And one thing is for certain, Hollywood has not been the only shooter. With Amal taking on militant groups and George taking on politics of his own, they've had to make sure that their family's safety is their #1 priority. With that being said, we're wondering how this couple finds and survives love. And of course, the age-old question that's always on everyone's mind is how on earth did George Clooney go from saying he will never marry again to having not one, but 2 children with one of the most influential women in Britain? Guess you will have to stay tuned as we unpack one of Hollywood and the world's most unique and powerful love stories. And don't forget to subscribe to Rumour Juice channel. Now, we all remember how in his younger years, George Clooney used to make it very clear that he would never get down on one knee again, naturally breaking hopeful hearts around the world. But it's not hard to understand why he made this decree, as at the time he refused to believe that he would ever be able to be happily married. But why? Why would one of the most sought-after bachelors have this tragic mindset? It all started back in 1993, when he went through a nasty divorce with actress Talia Balsam. Don't worry if this doesn't ring any bells. It's easy for George and Talia's marriage to slip your mind, considering the Ocean's 11 actor was looked at by the world as the eternal Hollywood bachelor for years and years. George and Talia tied the knot in Las Vegas on December 15, 1989, but they called it quits only 4 years later. Looking back on the demise of their marriage, Clooney said he wasn't ready to fully give himself to another person and doesn't know if he ever will be ready. The actor has said that the divorce process he went through with Talia was so painful that he turned into a complete and utter mess. He was filled with guilt, sorrow, and fell into a deep depression. George admits that he couldn't stop feeling as though he was responsible for the failure of his marriage. He hated that time of his life and promised he would never put himself or anyone else through that torment again. And so he vowed to never get married again. "I don't want to screw anybody up. I don't want to do it anymore." Clooney didn't stop there. Along with promising never to get married again, he also assured that he would never have kids. The actor admitted that he just didn't believe that he had that gene that others have to replicate. But that didn't stop him from dating, and boy did he date. There was even a time where it wouldn't be a surprise to see this Hollywood hunk with a new woman every few months. Let's just say he really committed to the role of the eternal bachelor. He even made a bet with Michelle Pfeiffer for $100,000 that he would never get married again. With George's charm, success, and good looks, it's not surprising that many women would want to date this actor. Many even hoped that they might be the one that would change his mind as he gets down on one knee. Some of these gorgeous women include Celine Bellatran, Krista Allen, Cameron Diaz, Lisa Snowden, Renee Zellweger, and many, many, many others. But unfortunately, none of those romances stood the test of time. Yet, fast forward years later, and what do we see? George Clooney, a husband and father of 2.
And you said it would never, ever happen. And
Yes.
You know what? God bless you.
Well, it's happened.
Yes!
I can't take it back now.
So, what made Clooney give up his bachelor life and try his hand at marriage? Again, something he was convinced he was terrible at. Well, firstly, Amal Alamuddin didn't care for George's bachelor status, and she certainly didn't try to get him on one knee. Clooney has said in interviews what he loves most about his wife is how self-sufficient and extremely independent she is.
Let's talk about George Clooney. He's your friend, right?
Yes.
And what do you think about this?
I think it is sublime.
Have you met her?
No.
She seems lovely.
She is beautiful and smart,
Right.
and he is happy, and that's what matters to me.
She's not only elegant, beautiful, and smart, she's also a true leader. Oh, and did we mention that she is not a Hollywood A-lister? In fact, she is pretty far from it. Basically, Amal is a human rights lawyer who worked on the Enron case and was an advisor to Kofi Annan regarding Syria. She was also selected for a 3-person UN commission that was investigating rules of war violations in the Gaza Strip. Is that impressive or what?
Well, I think listen, what she's doing is sort of something that's very important to what she does for a living, and what she does for a living in this case is to protect a young girl and a group of people, the Yazidis, who actual genocide has been committed against, and if you don't take them to court, then if you don't hold them accountable, then what are you doing?
There is no question that Amal is a powerhouse of note, but her journey to the top was certainly not an easy one. When her family fled the civil war in Beirut, hoping to escape the refugee life as they looked for a stable life in London, Amal studied hard throughout her life with a dream of making a difference for little girls like her around the world. And she certainly hasn't let anyone down, as she has gone on to become one of the most renowned international human rights lawyers in the world. Intimidating or what? George has even confessed to Esquire that, quote, "Oftentimes I feel like an idiot talking to my own wife." So how exactly did this fairy tale begin? Well, it was a summer's day when the pair met at the actor's Lake Como home in July of 2013, as a mutual friend stopped by while en route to Cannes with Amal in tow. "I got a call from my agent who said, 'I met this woman who is coming to your house, who you're going to marry.'" Naturally, George was set on meeting this woman that would supposedly make him change his bachelor ways, and Amal definitely did not fall short. "I thought she was beautiful, and I thought she was funny and obviously smart. She probably thought I was old." But obviously, the 16-year age difference didn't bother her, since the two hit it off right away as they started corresponding back and forth. But not after the actor had to put in a little bit of effort after Amal refused to give her number to the actor at first. That's right, Amal at first rejected the great George Clooney. That must be a first for the actor. But George was up for the challenge and managed to find her email and reportedly mailed her saying, "I think the reported hottest man in the world should meet with the hottest human rights lawyer in the world." And so their string of flirty emails started, even though at the time he wasn't exactly sure if Amal saw him as anything more than a friend. The activist even admitted in an interview that she didn't think she would get into a relationship with George, much less get married to the guy. "I met George when I was 35 and starting to become quite resigned to the idea that I was going to be a spinster. But things progressed pretty quickly from the get-go. With his humanitarian work and Amal acting as a human rights lawyer, it was a match made in heaven. Within months, George knew that this was the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. So the next step, naturally, was popping the question. And when George got down on one knee, Amal proved again just how different she was to all of his exes, as she was not expecting a proposal at all. It took her a whole 25 minutes to get past the shock, and made him patiently wait for an answer. That's right, she made one of the most sought-after bachelors in the world wait almost half an hour before she gave him an answer.
And I literally said, "Look, I hope the answer is yes, but I need an answer because, I'm 52 and I could throw out my hip pretty soon if I don't get an answer."
But of course, she said yes, eventually, and the couple tied the knot. And just 2 years later, Amal gave birth to twins. Now, we can only imagine how hard it must be raising 2 children at once, but what about the added pressure they receive from their demanding jobs and, of course, all of the paparazzi? There's a bounty on my kid's head for a photo, so that's something that we are very conscious of. Despite the pressure, George and Amal promised each other that they would be as responsible and careful as possible with their kids, given how often both of them go to war-torn countries for their missions. "I will not go to South Sudan anymore, and in the Congo. Amal will no longer go to Iraq, and she will avoid places where she knows she is not welcome." Not something a first-time parent would be concerned about. Being flagged by the paparazzi is one thing, but when countries at war enter the picture, that brings on a whole other level of concern. We don't really want our kids to be targets, so we have to pay attention to that. Regardless of the added pressure this family has had to endure, it seems like there is nothing that can stop them, as they just keep getting stronger and more successful as the years go by. There is no denying that the way these two look and talk to each other is enough for anyone to believe that real love exists.